today with Mehdi GS Primo for another episode of the Contractors Innovation Podcast. And here we're looking for the wisdom from contractors. And Mehdi is a recent design build contractor with a background that we're going to talk about. So what we want to do is get to know Mehdi and help him grow his business through this podcast and sharing this podcast. So Mehdi, I had some questions. I was going to say, what's going on in Iran? Let's talk about geopolitics. I mean,
welcome to another episode of the Contractors Innovation Podcast, sponsored by CH Shotcrete Inc. We're happy to bring you these podcasts in an education and knowledge sharing format. And we look forward to hearing from you. Email me at martinh@footprintengineering.ca. God bless, and may you have a wonderful day.
You must get that question a lot. Okay?
Yeah, I usually dodge this question. It's a complicated topic, but yeah,
Yeah.
like Iran is a complicated country, as you know, as a long history of different things. But as you know, after the revolution, lots of things has changed, and we have this government that some people or most of the people has problem with, and then on the other side, you have the Western countries that try to impose their, it's my understanding, hegemony, and it creates conflict. You have like a stubborn government, and you have some folks who wants control over certain countries, and to the people, I think this is the most devastating scenario for people, because you are under pressure from outside and you're under pressure from inside. And there's been lots of movement and protests and this and that through these years to change the situation in a better way. But yeah, at this point, I think this is the hottest point, at least in the Middle East. Yeah, and not going in the right direction, I think. But there would be a change. This is what I feel. But sanction is the past, let's say when I came to Canada, it was 2010. I came to Canada as part of my PhD. It was a visiting research type of thing, joint, type of PhD.
How old were you then in 2010?
I'm 1982, so 27, 28. I can't, I think it was around 27, 28. And I stayed here, and because of the military service, it's mandatory in Iran. You either have to go, or if you go back, they capture you and they ask you to go and serve for 2 years. So I decided to go back at that point. And the situation was good. It was not that bad, to be honest. Even I decided to stay there for the next 5 years. I was there doing engineering, design, consultation, and also I was involved in a few construction projects. And then I came to Canada in 2015 for the postdoc. But during that time, in the building industry, it was flourishing. There were lots of developments here and there, and the people was not under that much pressure. After that, it was a crippling sanction, as they call it, and the economy went down. Too much financial pressure. to the people. And
And
yeah.
they blame the government. They blame the government for
Yeah,
not being.
to a certain extent, yeah, because of the their policies and this and that. But my feeling is after like came into Canada, like living here for, I think that no matter what they uh this is my feeling. At some point, that they can't see certain countries, take independent approach. And this is what I feel. If next day they topple the government, replace it with the most democratic government on earth, there's gonna be a problem again. Because people need to take their own like decisions. And that was the origin actually of the problem between Iran and US. 70, 80 years ago, after a movement. It was 150 years ago in Iran. It was a democratic movement, and they toppled the king at that time. And after that, there was sort of like a revolution type of things. There was a king, and then after that, there was a guy who Mossadegh, we call it, and they did a coup. British and US, they did a coup against that guy. That was the only or the first
What? How many years ago? How many years ago?
80 years ago, maybe.
80 years. That wasn't the Shah. The Shah came after, eh? The Shah was
No, it was between the father of that Shah and that the son, the last Shah.
okay.
And this guy was elected, like democratically elected by the people. And he like nationalized the oil at that time. And then they made a coup, British and US, and they toppled this guy. And that led somehow to that Islamic revolution 40 years later. And all the tension and problem between US and Iran and this and that. So it stayed in their back of their, memory probably. But yeah, not in the right direction, I think, in the Middle East, unfortunately. But I feel the same tension everywhere, even in Europe. But what do you think? Think.
It seems like crazy times. I watch podcasts to learn, and I'm very disturbed with, and very pleased in some ways with Iran. Like I'm voting for Iran because I don't like what's happening in Gaza, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't like that, and it's unconscionable, really. And the if it wasn't for the U.S. support, but I was just to backtrack a little bit. What did your father do, Mehdi? Was your father an
He's a
engineer?
retired like colonel. He was in the army like before a revolution and after the revolution. He was in the Air Force, and he got retired 20-ish years ago, or 15, 20 years ago. And yeah, my father was in the army. I raised in a base, like it was designed and built by Americans at that time.
How,
Before the
so
revolution.
an American base. So that's interesting. How many bases did the Americans have in Iran at the
Oh, it
peak?
was not American based. It was designed before
Oh,
the revolution. So it was like they literally like copy pasted like some of the bases. They used to send the some folks to US for training, and they got this and that. So before revolution, there was a very close relationship. But after that, there was a there was a tension. But yeah, I was he was in the military Air
is
Force.
he is he still alive?
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, tell us about your PhD area of study. Um, I won't preface it with, I know it's geotechnical, I know it's civil engineering, but you would specialize and have certain aspects to it that you could comment on, I think. Eh?
Yeah, my main field of study is soil structure interaction or soil pile interaction. And I started this by like studying different types of like lateral loaded pile interactions or behavior. Um, different, as you know, type of lateral loads. We could
Like
have,
on an individual pile, like a driven pile, for instance, or on an excavation support system.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
we
oh,
have lateral load from wave or from like a wind turbine, bridges, these type of piles, they are all under lateral load. And when it comes to lateral, we have like cyclic, static, dynamic, even shockwave, like things like that. So I started with lateral loaded behavior of piles, soil structure interaction, specifically on wing trail models or those springs, like simulating. This is what we discussed the other day, and from soil nonlinearity, soil model, like developing a Winkler model, nonlinear Winkler model for soil. We ended up to simulating some or incorporating some nonlinearity of structures as well eventually. So try to develop something for soil structure interaction, um, different loads under different loads.
can you comment on some of the influences of other engineers? Like a lot of people talk about Trusoggi and Peck and different people like that. What would be your reference? Would they be related to American sources? You obviously are international, so I'm
Yeah,
wondering.
like in terms of like I don't get the question
Well, I
exactly.
guess what are your engineers that what are the names of engineers you admire in your study area?
Um, those folks who work in my area, like we have like Novak, as you know, like he was at Western as well. Uh,
Yep.
Novak has like a great contribution in this area. He's been, and then I work with he's a student, Dr. El Negar. Is now like teaching at Western as well, and he has a like a huge contribution in terms of like even the development of the foundation engineering manual, the Canadian one. They did lots of studies in the on a helical pile under lateral load, these type of the different types of loads. Bollinger is a professor also, Professor Bollinger in US, and I used to follow one of the pioneer in nonlinearity of the structures. I cannot recall his name, but he has a very like huge like contribution on the nonlinearity of the structures, the fiber technique. This is what he developed. Um, but yeah, these are I think the those who affected my studies like in this area.
So I don't know if we mentioned this before. It's kind of funny, but I graduated the year you were born,
Yeah, I recall that. It's
and I'm still learning. You know, that's the good thing about geotechnical is there's people to meet and things to learn as you acquire experience with different projects. You know, it becomes a database of your own experiences, right? Um, how's your business these days? What can we spell out the actual name of your business again? Like what's the name? Because
It
I
is GS Primo Design Inc. I wanted to go with engineering initially, but at that time you have to go through a lengthy process with the PO to give them get their green light for the adding the engineering into the name, and I wanted to just start a business because of the literally big projects that I got at that time, and I have a very short time, so I went with GS Primo Design, but we do engineering at GS Primo. It's a GS Primo Design Inc. And later on, I also created this drilling company, call it Geocore Drilling.
GEOCORE.
GEO Core.
Geocore. And
Yeah.
do you have a website for that? By the way,
Yeah, it is gcdrilling.ca for
okay.
the drilling company.
Dante, maybe you can put those things in the show notes.
Yeah.
If it's easy for you. I think it is for you.
Yeah, I'm making a note of that.
So your current thoughts on design is to learn it more so than take any risks. There's no reason to have risks in geotechnical. I think we have a good handle with like Al Nagar and different people who we school under, even yourself. You know, I would feel comfortable asking you questions, even though I have 42 years experience. I wouldn't really be a designer. I mean, I have a C of A based on experience, but it's really just conservative things that I get involved in, slabs and different technologies with concrete has always interested me because of sustainability. So I think engineers have a role to play. But if I was to ask you, do you think we're in a regime of over-design? Mehdi?
I think so, and this is two reasons because of the risk that people don't want to accept, and the other thing is the lack of proper investigation. So they'd rather to spend more on the construction side than invest a little bit on the investigation side. And I think that this is the lack of understanding of the design build process, I would say. So I see they rather to go with one borehole for a 35 story building with a remarkable footprint. So what do you end up with if you do only one borehole and probably not to the right depth? So you end up with making some very conservative assumption. I can see this in different reports that they review. Sometimes you have to review some other folks reports. But yeah, I think that this is the main reason. On the consultation side, they're not willing to pay what they have to pay for the investigation.
Yeah, I agree with you. Do you think that the reliance on blow counts is also perhaps an issue without the sampling that I think you're more scientific in the sense that you would take samples and try to do some laboratory work on the sample, right?
We do both, but on the one thing that I learned some of my friends that do designing shoring, they don't even use any geotech or soil information, no geotechnical, and then they design shoring.
So you're saying they're really designing as structural engineers, right?
Yeah.
So they end up looking at what was done before, maybe making it a little heavier beam wise. I think there's a lot of inefficiency with the size of the soldier beam. You know, the weight of the beam. I got into pushing the envelope a bit with bypass shotcrete, and we had a section. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but we would weld we were trying to replace case on wall. I think there's a big opportunity to stop drilling secant piles at 5 MPa, but to try and recognize the fact that if you put on a better concrete shotcrete, weld the pile so it's a composite section. I'd like to. I know you're capable of looking at some of the designs you're going to come up with, so you could probably figure that. Okay, for if you take a pile that's 24 at 68, it's a very common pile in shoring because you can buy it from wholesalers and whatnot. The steel people seem to have seconds of that material a lot. 24 at 68. They're called mill seconds, so you can buy them for a reasonable price. But when I weld, let's say on an 18 at 45, a tab, then I get a composite action with my shotcrete tab, and I put I don't know if you've looked at the details. I don't think I've really. They might be on my website, but they're inferred a little bit by the thicknesses of the shotcrete. But there is a welded tab on the beam, so you end up with a composite action, almost like a T-beam, right? T-beam of concrete, and I'm looking forward to looking at some of those situations when we have work together with you, because I think, the next topic I want to talk about is, I was very intrigued by the first meeting I had with you in London, where you showed me your vision for 2 types of software. And for our audience, Maddie's talents are quite deep with design. So you said you had one software that you were working on where you could take a PDF of a building or of a structure and push a button and get the structural design from that.
Yeah, it's basically, it could be like a model, actually, an architectural model. And from that architectural model, we can basically like extract all the other information, like, like structural details and everything.
So you'd end up putting in certain quick assumptions about live load and dead load.
It's not assumption, it's basically the live and dead load of the building. So literally,
Right.
like being there, we just all need to like insert them to the building or to the frame.
Right.
And yeah, so that was something that this is one of my main goals down the road, and this is like I call it a structural design tool, and they the structural like software developers, they are going in this direction, and the only problem is with the live load currently. But I like to go back to that question because I didn't answer that question regarding the soil investigation, the SPT. I think that SPT is kind of representative of soil, like condition or strength to some extent, but not necessarily in any type of, probably in clay. We have to do more lab investigation as well. But yeah, in the lack of like anything else, I think SPT is a good representative of soil condition to certain extent. So
It tends, when I look at it from a foundation contractor standpoint, I always am fine making assumptions about projected costs because of the presence of SPTs. So I don't see us changing anything like that. But you're like, it's useful, you agree. So you would look at it, and that's the reports that you're looking at for other people. When you do your old soil investigation, do you do SPTs?
We do all SPT all the time. Yeah, I don't do any design with SPT or DCP. Recently, I got a smaller dynamic cone penetrometer test device.
Mhm.
And if you have like, because sometimes for smaller projects, they cannot afford the cost. So we
So
do
is that a
DCP.
penetrometer?
Yeah,
Like
I do like a a dynamic cone penetrometer. It's basically for highway, like, but
Mhm.
sometimes for like shallower foundations, we can do these type of. It gives you some idea instead of pushing a stick into the ground and guess how stiff the ground is. DCP is a better representative of soil condition, I think.
Uh, what was that? T
The
what did you call it?
dynamic cone penetrometer.
Oh, yes, right. So that's quite a sensitive device where you can get shear strength, right? That's correct.
It gives you some sort of like, yeah, soil strength parameter. You can correlate these to like C or
Uh,
phi or other parameters, whatever soil type you have, you can correlate like SPT.
right.
All these like tests at the end of the day, you have to correlate them to the soil parameters, and from there you do the like some basic calculations to estimate the bearing capacity. Like could be like SLS or ULS bearing capacity at the end of the day. For more important projects, we need to do lab tests, estimate those soil basic parameters from lab testing. But like, what is the cost for like triaxial test? It's gonna be like significant when you considerable when you have like projects and you want to do like triaxial tests for estimating soil parameter or soil characteristics. I think SPT is the most practical at this point in Canada, but I think in the US they do CPT more than SPT. I'm not familiar with their procedure, but I think that they're leaning to more CPT than SPT, cone penetrometer test.
You think that the conservative nature of design is just from the structural engineers who maybe don't have a partner that like you? I think you're a very good structural engineer. My understanding is you're very comfortable with structural engineering. Obviously, to do a program where you can PDF architectural drawings, take architectural drawings and turn it into structural design, then it's a hard industry to change, though, is it not, Mehdi?
Yeah,
It's which makes it opportunity too for better engineers, I believe. Um,
but at the end of the day, soil structure interaction is like its own, like it has its own word. So I designed like lots of structures. Back in Iran, I was working as a structural engineer, as a matter of fact. So for years, I've been doing design on the structural side. And then my research was on the soil structure interaction. And I got my PhD on geostructural or geotechnique mainly. I've been doing lots of geotech. But one thing that I learned from all these like different words is you have to have deep understanding of the procedure when it comes to or process when it comes to solid structure interaction. So you have to know structure and you have to know geotech because at the end of the day, it's an interaction that matters. And ignoring some of the key features can lead into either over designing or under designing a structure. Or so when it comes to shoring design, to to pile design, anything like that, I think that they have to understand what type of parameters they need from geotech to put in their models for the design. And sometimes if you are a structural engineer and have no idea about geotech and you want to design a shoring, yes, you can do the shoring design, easily go to the SAP and or any other software and just apply load, but this load may not be representative of the soil load. So, and that's the reason they go with relatively more conservative type of shoring design.
Which manifests in heavier frames, right? Heavier
Yeah.
beam. And, or let's say this idea that everything in Toronto, for instance, they have this aversion to dealing with stormwater management in a combined storm and sanitary. So they ended up, I think you're probably familiar with it, but they ended up doing rules that got picked up across Canada because Toronto's a bit of a standard, just like the MTO is a bit of a standard for other transportation agencies in Canada. But the idea that, you're better off to bathtub or create a heavy raft slab and heavy, literally 18-inch reinforced concrete walls. So you can imagine the OVERdesign. I have a system called FEH2O lock, which basically is just an acronym, but it drains and it uses 2 layers of 5-inch shotcrete. I think you've seen pictures of it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so then I feel perfectly confident with that, but it ends up being, can we use chem concrete, for instance, to waterproof the shotcrete? There's a lot of problems with waterproofing that relate to sequence of construction. People build floor by floor, and then there's a lack of QA on the rebar that's left at each floor. So you end up with problems with, lack of inspection at the appropriate time. But they leave for instance, the latents on every floor. But if you pour it behind a secant wall, you end up with a tremendous amount of cost. I mean, the secant wall might be 1 meter, 5 MPa. You still have to bring the concrete to the site. And then the raft slabs, as you know, are 2 meters thick. And this is in soil that in the 1980s, Maddie, we used to drain the soil, just let the soil drain through lagging when it wasn't next to stiffening of a building. And then those sites today are dry, but it's the overregulation by the city of Toronto. So what we're planning to try and get green infrastructure partners involved, and Isherwood, who has some credentials with the city, believing that Isherwood's wisdom, based on 50 years experience with Brian Isherwood, who I used to work with, and then Nader Ansari today is the principal, that they can guide us. And I think Nader believes in it. He said the rate of evaporation of Toronto soil exceeds the rate of leakage. You're in glacial till. That's, got blow counts of 50, 60, 80. And then the rock is dry. So when you get into the shale, which can take 75, we used to get 75 tons a square foot on end bearing design and caissons there. And there's different things. It just heads towards conservative nature versus the engineer says, well, he sticks the end. I think the opportunity for yourself and myself is to point out, well, let's let's provide the guarantees that what we're saying will work. I think structural engineers tend to be very conservative, just repeat, right?
Yeah.
So, so you agree it's an opportunity, Mehdi? I
Yeah.
would say for
Yeah.
for your company, I would say so. And are you busy these days?
Yeah, I was busy actually during this summertime. As you know, I did some pile installation construction as well. And yeah, and on the geotech side, the consultation side, we had like few projects, every month. And yeah, on the construction side also, I was busy with that slope stabilization project. Still something going on that side, but yeah, try to get less busy and focus on the software. To be honest, this is the only reason I think I'm in the business, because my main interest in life, like that, gives me some. My passion is like developing software, and I wanted to go back to that board and work on that tool. But yeah, still busy.
I invited Sam Allen from Dribble. He said he might try to make it, but I when I texted him, I think he's got family on the weekend and whatnot. But I do believe he's looking for some kind of a design performance statement. I'm not a software guy, but we'll have to set up another meeting where that's targeting that, because I'd like to give Sam's a very good guy. The good thing about a commercial web design guy, if he's got access to programmers, is I think he can do it. Your programmer wasn't sure that he had the talents himself, but he's a coordinator, right? He's not a programmer, and he can draw. I think they have quite a stable of programmers. Would you call it C++ programming? Is that
It can be done in any language. The thing is this, for that auto-generative report, like generative tool that we developed and we completed that one, I had to spend almost 1 week to generate like it was around, I think, 200 pages of instruction. It was for like environmental site assessment report, like auto generative tool. And I spent almost 1 week, day and night, to generate this guideline for them to to write the codes. The thing that it works, like I had this someone I hired like for almost 1.5 years, and I was working with him almost every day
what
to
was his name again? I met him on the last. What was his name?
no, but I hired someone like to generate that tool, the Office version and the web-based version for the pile design. What we learn is this, I learned actually, and this is what they need. All the software like programmers, they need this. They don't want us to explain what is soil or what is structure or this and that. They need a structure, they need a guideline to follow and implement that in their. So they that it takes time. You need to spend at least 1-2 weeks to develop this guideline. Like this is how the workflow, this is what I need, this is like this structure. You have to instruct them on that side. They cannot just come up, just push a button and generate the entire software. They need you to instruct them on the workflow, to some extent on the GUI, the interface, And then they take it from there and they develop what you need, and there should be lots of coordination and meetings through this process. So it's not like you stay aside and let them to develop the software. You have to be involved on different levels at different levels. And that's why I personally have to spend like 1, 2 weeks, do nothing, just develop that that guide for them to follow. And
I think
unfortunately,
that's what he's waiting on, I think. You
yeah,
meant
yeah. This is hold me back. You know, whenever I decide to spend some time and like focus, and you need focus, right? You can just jump on that thing and yeah. I don't know. Like my hope is like during the winter time or like the fall season, we have more free time to spend on that. But yeah, summer
would you
was one project to another.
yeah, I guess you're coming to the time of year that might give you that time, with
Yeah,
a cold winter week, and you can't do much but wait till spring. So it sounds like you're benefiting from the fact that you're a fairly good programmer yourself, right?
I don't consider myself. I ended up like coding because of the need, because we have two different types of codings. There are some software developers who understand like have that background in software development, or you have some engineers who wants to solve a problem and they use a tool to solve that problem. I was the second one. So I ended up like doing lots of coding because I wanted to develop a soil model to like model the soil structure interaction. That's why I like use that it's not even a software, they don't call it software. MATLAB is a language, but it's very easy, like basic tool for like solving problems. And I just wanted to make sure that my solution is accurate. And this is why we publish lots of papers and that, and did lots of validation, verifications, this and that, with full scale like test data. But at the end of the day, you need to give them this solution. And at that point, you can simply convert it. Like ChatGPT now, today, you can just give them the program and you can convert it to any software. And I paid for that at some point, like to convert that from like MATLAB to C sharp or to C++ or to Fortran. Now, all you need to do is just copy paste this in literally Chat GPT, and it generates all the codes for you. So
Are you concerned? Oh, this is a sidebar, but there's a lot of podcasts out these days that predict that we can't control AI. It's a serious issue, I think, with
I I doubt it. I was watching some video yesterday about like those jobs that will be lost in 2027 or 2023. So the guy was predicting this and that. I'm very doubtful about that. I don't think like we are going that fast, and maybe some office works, like report writing things, in engineering world probably. Um, the other day I used the Chat GPT to design a wall, a retaining wall, and I asked the software, the bot, to generate the calculations. I didn't want to do the hand calculations, so I asked it to. So when this process was done, I spotted some huge major errors there. Yes, it can be fixed at some point, but I don't think it's gonna replace engineers or like plumbers, drillers. It can't be done that fast. And I think it is more of a noise around this than some,
Concern.
yeah, I don't have that concern, to be honest, personally.
Have you ever heard of a AI called Perplexity? Perplexity.
No. What is
It's it's something my girlfriend uses, and she ends up you could ask it anything, and it comes highly recommended from my computer support company, MicroAge. They're a pretty good outfit, and Ken says you can ask Perplexity anything. I actually used it for my patents. I asked about how to find patent brokers and whatnot, and it answered right away. It gave you very valuable information. So there's no doubt AI is useful, but I think it's in the hands. Your point is that you have to be an engineer to be discerning, right? On risk, to understand the answer may be numbers, but not necessarily accurate. The difference between precision and accuracy. The difference, the accuracy, you want to get a safe answer. Precision isn't necessarily an indication of accuracy. You might have decimal points, but is precision the game? In excavation support, I would always be able to make a pretty good stab based on experience where the pressure coefficient might be 0.25 of the vertical load on a clay deposit. And then I could tell if the shear strengths or water, you might end up going to 0.3. Or we would go to, for buildings, we would often just use 0.5 because we didn't want any cracking. But this seems like an opportunity, if you can give the savings to the owner, to have an advantage over time. Would you agree, Mehdi, that the wisdom comes from a combination of, let's say, my experience and your ability to do the calculations?
Absolutely, yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's a big.
This is a good opportunity to like combine these two, because it gives you the access to the experience of experts, right? So you can embed that into any software like now, because you don't need to read like 200 pages of a book, just use these tools to feed that in this type of knowledge into your software or your tool. Does it do the job by itself at some point? Probably yes. But what does it change? I don't know. To be honest, it's already messed up, because, it creates a bigger monopoly for those who has the control over these type of tools. But you're already in the same, like, matrix, you have Walmart, all these big giants who control everything. Now you have a bunch of folks who have control over ChatGPT or any of these AI tools, and those guys are the ones who can shut this down, off or up. Doesn't make a huge difference, but and I can't imagine like by 2023, like you don't need any plumber, or I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, and in the end, the workmanship of the tradesman
Yeah.
is, and even the knowledge of the tradesman. I was always very close ear to the tradesman. I think you would know enough, Mehdi, to listen carefully when a tradesman's talking.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wisdom there for that. I'm just going to see if Dante has some guests at his house, so he's not. I don't know if he's listening. We're coming close to an
I'm
hour.
I'm listening. I just can't speak,
Okay.
but I've been listening this whole time.
Oh, okay. How's your
Yeah.
guests? They're not missing out too much right now.
I wanted to ask
No.
the same question from Dante as well. Like, what do you
Uh-huh.
think, Dante, about this AI thing? Like,
Um, I think it's like any tool, you know what I mean? Like people will find a way to use it to benefit them, and then other people will find ways to use it against other people. Do I think that AI will eventually get to a point where it has no masters? Maybe. And at that point, what can I do about it? uh, but you know, um, because I come from like an IT background, so I've like known about AI, I've known programmers and all these things, and I even know programmers that use like ChatGPT to help with their programming. And
yeah,
they've been doing this for like at least 4 or 5 years now, where
yeah,
they're like, they have an issue, and then they're like, okay, maybe I know how to speak this coding language, but I can just ask ChatGPT to write this code for me. And then, like you said, it might write the code, but there might be a few mistakes in it. So then they just have to go back and go over those few mistakes. And then, it probably saved them a week of time trying to figure out what exactly they need to type versus them just doing it in the prompt. And then they go over for like an hour or two and just pick out the mistakes or fine tune it, you know? So it's interesting.
Can we,
Uh,
do you
Go
think
ahead.
it's based on that knowledge? I understand, do you think Medi could you already have a first pass from GBT rather, Medi, in terms of your program? Or is it something you want to build from scratch with,
what?
well, the program, the actual program, the vision that you have, you and Amid spent a year and a half to come up with what you showed me, I think, the first time I met you. So,
One of them relies on ChatGPT for auto-generative tool. This is heavily relies on like a language model because you need an interface to generate reports, which is a very simple tool. Like this is just auto. But for the other one, you have to generate something that has like some sort of like AI involved, but basically you need an interface to one, get the data, do some analysis, and then present this to. And during this process, you can also embed the wisdom, experience, and knowledge of experts like you into the AI like solution, like generative tools, let's call it,
Hmm.
So we need to at that point you can use any, like when it comes to like like proposing different solutions for this particular problem and comparing different aspects of those solutions, like the cost, the constructability, this and that. Can you use ChatGPT or any language model or any AI based driven model for this type of like optimization? The answer is positive. But does it heavily rely on language model for analysis? We are not there like yet. Like if you have a structural analysis problem, you still need to use the right tool, a finite element based tool or finite difference based tool for the analysis. It can't be done with language model, as far as I know. That's why we have like ETAP, SAP, Plexis, this and that for analysis. We can't use ChatGPT or any language model for these type of analysis that relies on a numerical modeling or analysis. So still we need to do some sort of, you need an engine to do the calculations. You can't just ask a bot to give you the answer for a complicated project.
Yeah, I think every engineer needs to have literally a pencil to paper where their wisdom and experience can give them, like you could interact with me and I could probably add some value to your you're probably going to be right to begin with, but it's always good to have a second set of eyes, right?
You are
Yeah.
the best person I can mentor this tool because we lack experience in construction.
Yeah.
And you have like years of experience. So this is the thing, the tool is at the end of the day, we have a interface like to get to interact with the user to get the information from the user. Like you go to the site, you do SPT test, this and that, you can easily fit into this to the software. The second phase is the analysis. I have the engine. I develop this software, GSnap we used to call it. So we have the engine for different types of analysis. So we can put this into this tool and do some analysis. But when it comes to the optimization, AI, you need experience, practicality, constructability, cost. These type of things, if you want to optimize your solution, you need to use like the knowledge and experience for different types of soil, different types of projects, areas, and feed into the software. So this is where you need experience. And one of my driving like the thing that I've been thinking about this for years was the experience, how we can encapsulate experience into the software. And this has not been done as far as I know in any software. So we can't, every project in engineering is a standalone project. The software does not learn from previous projects. The software, I'm not talking about the user. So there's a disconnect between the user and the software. Why your software cannot learn from you for the past 40 years that you've been using this tool? That is something that would be valuable to probably.
Yes, well, I think we can learn from each other, Mehdi, and that's why I'd like you to be, talking to my friend Caitlin, because I think, there's an investment here that we're both making. You can always phone me anytime, you know that, and I can tell you the best way to make a truck insurance claim or whatever, right? But did you get your truck fixed? He got his truck hit in a construction site.
Yeah, was it. I
Oh
took it to
no.
the insurance and hopefully they're gonna fix it. But this dude like reversed back to my truck, brand new.
Mm. Oh no. It's always the new
Emotionally
ones.
hurt I was, rather than financial, I don't want my brand new car to
Yeah,
get it by a
it's
dump
unfortunate.
truck. So,
Yeah. Just to go on a little bit about what you guys were saying, um, and relating it to the AI, there is some, I guess, experience or wisdom that only comes from actually being on the site and doing things, right? Like I'm sure Martin has some tricks where he like puts the stick in the ground a certain way, and because it does this, he's able to get that read. But only he has that knowledge because he's been doing it for that long, right? So I think it maybe in the future there might be some like, some sort of like hybrid solution where it's like, you have the guy with the experience plus the AI and that sort of artificial intelligence, and then you come up with a more like optimized solution. But those kind of tricks and experience that Martin has, like they're with him, and then he shares them with other people in person. But like you're saying, how do you get those little tricks into a software,
This
you
is the
know?
key. This is the key. How we can get this into software.
Yeah.
And I think this is what has been ignored through all these years. No one like developed a tool that like when this person, this expert leave the company, he takes all his experience and knowledge with him to
Yep.
it's like those eras that we couldn't like record like musics and it's all gone, right?
Yep.
So
Exactly. Yeah, there maybe there's the ancient people, they like to carve a lot of things into stone, so maybe Martin could do some nice art pieces.
If I can remember, you
have to find a cave first.
Medi, probably a practical solution is to build your software with maybe three opinions. Have three inputs. Just I'm picking a number, and I can get a closer relationship going with Matt Janes and you, the guy from Isherwood, because he doesn't mind doing work on the side. And like he's got his company Deacon Engineering, and he's part of my U.S. patent support team. So I find him very, very good. Of all the engineers I know, my previous podcast, I had him on it, by the way. It was called the Value Engineering Experts. So I think if we could get you two to get an agenda set, it'd be nice to have the two of you comfortable talking about, let's say, we took three examples. Maybe there's something we could do with three examples and then have a discussion about, Matt would have a wisdom that I think you'd benefit from. And it could be that we end up with the software having to seek out three answers before it integrates a range of risk relative to that. Like I say, you'd be surprised, Medi, how many times Isherwood uses 0.25 on active pressure, and because it's Isherwood, they're allowed that. But once in a while, he'll be 0.28 or 0.3. Matt Janes, as I said, I want to get you two comfortable with perhaps doing a podcast together. I'm going to send you the Value Engineering Experts podcast that we did one on the bow years ago.
I watched that podcast.
Oh, you did, eh?
Yeah,
So
I watched all of them. Like one in one of them, you're very young. It's presenting in a conference, I think.
yeah, it could be. So but I feel young now. I stay healthy. I I have advice for people about how to stay healthy, but the key, I think, is thinking wellness, right? Like I have
Yeah.
some tips for you, Medi. I've poked you a few times lately about how to keep yourself detoxed. But anyway, we'll talk again. So I think it's been a good podcast. It's about the right length, Medi. And
Yeah.
I'll finish by saying, thanks for your wisdom, and also, God bless.
Thank you for having me, and yeah, cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Take care.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Good one.